Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hera TV. My name is Laleh Hancock, and I have a magical guest here with me today. Her name is Rebecca Hoffberger. Hello, and welcome, Rebecca.
Oh, Lale, I love being with you, a fellow tree person. So, and dog, all right?
Yes, today it's about you. You have won the award with Hera, and we want to highlight you and the magic that you are creating, not just with trees, but truly with the whole world. You're inviting the world to a whole new possibility. And I know you are the founder, you are the director, you are the principal curator at the American Visionary Art Museum. And you've dedicated your whole life to this magical place that invites people to lots of different possibilities. And, our viewers are always curious about our guests. And, I want to know more about you. I know like you've always had this passion about nature. But can you say a little bit more? And the fact that I'm laughing that you live in the same state that I lived for over 25 years and we didn't know each other. So we're going to have to change that.
So, I would like to make this very Hera-centric because I'm very thankful to be recognized by Hera and the vision of Hera, and where I really hope to be able to bring to manifestation the highest good. I'm all the time, as being a founder of anything, you have to look at what there is to lose and what there is to win, and to be very sure that along the way you don't hurt anyone.
Mhm.
And actually, I spent a year because I come from Baltimore. Baltimore, Maryland has been an infamous city for its problems. But in an alchemical way, if you can make lasting, true change here, you could do it anywhere on earth. And that is the wonderful challenge. So I did a year-long exhibition called The Big Hope Show. And I studied for 2 years the murder capital of the world, Medellin, Colombia, that turned around to become the most studied in a positive sense city, and did so in far less than 10 years, and now has sustained that for more than 15, because that's the kind of creativity I respect most. Our cornerstone of our museum is this, is creative acts of social justice or social betterment, our life's highest performance art. Why? Why would that be? Because to make social change something lasting that endures to bless people is
Mm.
the hardest thing of all. And it requires the utmost and most fierce creativity. So that is a notion of, yes, we have the most beautiful award-winning building. Our outside is covered with 3 stories of mirrored mosaics as an apprenticeship program that constitutes the largest art apprenticeship program and tiling skills for incarcerated and at-risk youth in the United States. So it's, I tell my kids, if you're going to do something, make sure it's not good or right for just one good reason. It has to have layers of good that within one thing you think, oh, well, we could get, an established artisan to do those walls, or we could take kids with the highest incarceration rate anywhere in the world. It's something that America must heal of in itself, and show people how beautiful these same young people can be, and equip them with skills that they can do commercial tiling, etc. So when people see our walls, they say, did Antonio Gaudi come to Baltimore? I mean, they're not just like youth Potchki kind of mosaics. They're like drop dead, incredible. It's like a cosmic universe. So basically, well, I founded this museum to make a merger between art, science, engineering, social justice, and global philosophy, those ancient truths that get repeated and rediscovered throughout all cultures.
Mm.
And so every year I really pray and I pick an exhibition theme that is universal. And every year I've done so, even my most agnostic friends and staff go, "What did you pick this year?" Because on the year I picked Holy H2O, Fluid Universe, we opened, this 2004, more class 5 storms than in recorded history. And then the Indonesian tsunami. And the last week of that exhibition was the inundation from Katrina of New Orleans.
Oh,
And everything that year had to do. So I know that you're an environmentalist, and many of the Hera supporters are. But keeping on this water theme, what was discovered in that year leading up to my exhibition? Well, instead of just testing the recycled municipal water in London for no bacterial effluent, basically poop in the water, is what all cities are testing their water supply for, because it is recycled. They decided to run a mass spectrometer and look at every aspect of what was in the water that all the citizens of London were drinking.
mm,
And to their horror, they discovered that there were a great deal of neuroleptics because there's no system in place to clean Prozac, for example, out of the water.
mhm,
But there was also this abundance of feminine, of estrogen, because of all the cows and milks and all the birth control pills that women take and excrete, and it gets into the water system. So they then realized why the male fish in the Thames had virtually ceased to reproduce. So we're at an exciting time where the technology is showing us truths that were only intuited by sensitive people. So in the same way that Henri Poincaré said, it is through intuition we discover, and through science we prove. Our museum, with humor, because you also know the quote, if you're going to tell people the truth, make them laugh or else they'll kill you. It's so true.
yes.
And so we do these huge exhibitions about very serious subjects. And I use the museum as a scam to get on the phone to anybody I've ever really admired. And in that way, I was blessed to work with Archbishop Desmond Tutu on an exhibition on character. And it was called Race, Class, and Gender, three things that contribute zero to character, because being a schmuck is an equal opportunity for everybody, and so the whole show was choreographed to bring people back to the question of character in the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King, that's what counts about being a human being. And so when I was first approached to get involved with Hera, I loved meeting Gilles Bakhtiar, the architect, because I just love good people. I don't care what their sexual preferences are. I don't care what their anatomy is. So I was a little reluctant, like, what do you mean kind of city of women? But yes, men would be there. Like, I'm like, uh-oh, alarm, alarm. Because long ago, I challenged people to find a positive attribute which was distinctly feminine. And they'll say, well, how about nurturing? Well, are there women who aren't nurturing? And are there men who are incredibly gifted at being nurturers? Yeah. So you can't, there's no superlative when it applies to human beings that is gender specific. Yes, we are equipped physically with the womb. And it's very interesting that the word in most ancient languages for womb is linked with the word for compassion. And so what I'm working on now is kind of my swan exhibition. I've created 40 different ones. I picked the themes for 40 different ones in 25 years, but is going to be called Healing and the Art of Compassion at the suggestion of the Dalai Lama. The first time I've taken anything, but I said I can't just do something on compassion because it'll get too sweet or stereotype. I have to define compassion for an audience of little kids to Nobel laureates because they come to our museum. Um, in terms of what is compassion in its absence,
Mm.
because then you really feel what happens when that is lacking. You can taste the nature of what a compassion infused actions give us. So with Hera, the first thing is that it needs a lot of land. And my big thing is that if you have a lot of land, you have to make sure that it does not displace poor people living on that land. And if it's going to, then the cornerstone of your beginning has to be within the consciousness of how do you even make life better for them and draw a circle that will include them, because you cannot found an ideal community on any aspect of suffering that's been done in this world. We don't need more of it. So I'm very excited to be a Hera, awardee, and to meet such just, precious human beings. And years ago, we gave a standard kind of ESP test to the Young Presidents Organization in Madrid, actually. And it was funny because this goes back, like 40 years ago. And the word intuition used to be always paired with the term feminine intuition.
Mhm.
And and so men were kind of turned off by the word intuition, but they loved, oh, my gut, I've got a great gut, for investments or whatever. It's like, a rose by any other name. Of course, it's the same kind of thing. But we gave this test, and all these, overachieving CEOs scored very, very highly on the test. So whether it's an Elon Musk, or an Ariana Huffington, my friend who I admire so much, I find that creative people, truly creative, not people who look at the market of what's kind of trending and then try to jump in and ape someone else's work, but people who have that capacity to think fresh thoughts and to care, the two together, are unbelievably creative. They see possibility and relationship where most of us don't. And the Hero Project will require truly visionary, cooperative minds and hearts. And that's what makes it so exciting for me.
Yeah. And for me, like everything you were describing earlier, like there is that partnership with the communities, the partnership with men and women and children, bringing everyone together. And that's been what has really gotten me so engaged and so involved because the vision of the founder, Marinella, is that partnership starting at the top. The key
Mhm.
individuals in these countries who actually are going to be able to make this happen and be able to
Yes.
bring people within those communities who are part of it. So it's not the exclusion of what they require, but to be able to include. And that's why each city is going to be different. Each city, depending on its culture, and each country has its own uniqueness. Like I came here to Portugal for 9 days, I'm here 8 months later, and realizing how different the culture is here, how they engage, how they interact. I lived most of my life actually in America, and living on the East Coast was so different than living on the West Coast and how people function. So, like you described, like it is this partnership of Hera, the government, and the people, and being able to create something that really allows all of us to thrive and move forward as oneness, you know? And
It's interesting, you just use the word thrive. So 2 years ago, I did a show that has never been done before on a subject in an art format, and it was called Parenting, an art without a manual. And it's the good, the bad, the horrific, and the sublime of that. And of course, what happened was, the separation of children at the border. And so I think one of the most meaningful parts was to decide, well, where are the independent studies on where children do best? Just, and there were three main ones. One was US News and World Report, two other were UN. And it listed the countries that all had the same criteria, like infant mortality rates, violence with teens, all the well-being markers that there's statistics for. And I was so sad that America was never like above 22 on the list. So it's not a matter of money, it's a matter of consciousness.
Mhm.
And I want America to become better. I want the whole world to embrace what works well. So one of the great assessments of Hera that is to cherish when utopian communities have succeeded and where and how they succeeded. And yes, can they be better? Yes. But where do people thrive, which was your wonderful word, and where they don't? And to be very aware of what are the stressors that cause people to not live happy lives in a community. And what are those things that empower the individual? So we have 7 education goals that have been adopted around the world with attribution, but they're beautiful. They're very spiritual, but they're very practical as well. And I hope that those 7 founding goals of our American Visionary Art Museum will be adopted by Hera, because I think it would serve the beautiful vision of Marianela and people like yourself and Gilles, who's adorable, very, very well. And of course, I wouldn't be here with you if it wasn't for Mary Pagano and Roberta Baskin, one of, bringing me into the fold here. So with all my heart, I thank you. I thank you for what you're doing and caring about. And remember the um, the words of Mother Teresa was, we can do no great things, only small things with great love. So my hope is do something that works so beautifully that it is like yeast in a good bread, that it just proliferates, because people can see that what it was dream can be made manifest.
Yeah. And that was so beautifully said too. Thank you so much for that. And I want to share a little bit more, like, you've been empowering people for many, many, many years. And you're talking about the youth that gets to be part of your museum, but you and your work have been this domino effect that has expanded people's confidence, people's joy, and in so many other ways. And, we have so many different kinds of people that are watching this. And I'm just curious, like, what words of advice do you have for people out in the world
Mm.
to, to know that there's something greater available and ways that they can empower themselves?
Well, I think when you receive within yourself a really beautiful direction, an insight that you want to bring off, and you realize you can't do it only by yourself, so you have to sell it, so to speak. The thing is to be very acutely aware of people who try to shoot it down, and instead of looking at them as the enemy, listen very carefully, because the ones that reveal their hand, who try to come against you, are manifesting something that other people who won't be so in your face are also thinking.
Mhm.
So what you can do is look to see if there's any validity in their criticism,
Mhm.
but also to see where there isn't. But the next time you present that, you say, on one hand, people could say, oh, this is not a good idea for this reason. But this is why I believe we have that handled. And it becomes that criticism, you becomes part of the arrows in your quiver that you know how to negotiate around. And because you bring it up, they no longer own it. You are owning that and saying, I know that that could be true. And this is how my plan makes sure that that won't happen, in something negative. So there's that. That's a very important skill to learn early on. And the other thing is to constantly really, beg the universe that you're only going to be on this planet for such a short time, even if you live as my dad did in perfect health for 100 years. you know um it's still, most trees are older, right? So you have that humility of really saying, with all my flaws and all my strengths, whatever those be, may I please only do that which will be a blessing now and to come, and nothing else, not to be deterred left or right. Because that's a privilege, to use your highest good for the benefit of others. And I think that is intrinsic to the vision that Marianela has had for Hera. Although it's so funny. I'm friends with the EU ambassador to the United States, Stavros Lambrinidis, who's just a brilliant man, and he and his wife Phoebe. When I spoke about glowingly about the Hera project, they said, Hera, because she's kind of, no offense, I don't know if you could say the B word here, but. But in the pantheon, like, she wasn't always such a lovely human being or goddess to her rivals. She was always like plotting for their destruction. And I like the her in there. I understand where Marianella came out, but they were like a little horrified that it was named after her. And it's our job to give Hera a new incarnation, which means malice to no one,
Mhm.
and seeks truly befitting a goddess, only to be a channel for greater good and for healing on this earth. So there's so many wonderful ways that Hera can manifest, because we have the ecology science. We know how to be closer in communication with the land. We know how to treat people. We know how they thrive. And the research is out there. And I hope that we will find a way, like a laser, of incorporating all that great good to make a tsunami of what can be and should be.
So beautifully said. I cannot even say anything after that because that's the best way for us to end this interview today. Thank you
Oh, Laleh.
so much, Rebecca. It's such a pleasure to have you here and have you be part of the new Hera family. And so much to come. Like, as you said, this is just the beginning. And thank you for all you be and you do, and the magic that you're creating in the world and empowering all ages and just all of humanity. So,
I hope people will come. I always say it's the mothership for people like yourself to actually experience our American Visionary Art Museum, because it's it really links you to the buffet of global good.
mhm, definitely. Well, I look forward to, as soon as I can get on a plane to America, I am coming to see you.
I would love that. Thank you, Ale. Really.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much for today. And everyone, thank you guys for being here today with us. And if you ever have any questions, heracity.org. And we look forward to getting to know you and your communities, and also partnering with us, because Hera is not just a group of people, it's all of us around the world coming together as the oneness that we actually are. So, see you guys again on the next episode. Bye, everyone.